Microsoft's headed to E3 this week. Let's set the expectations. What's up, everybody? Brad here. And Microsoft is hosting their E3 conference later this week. And as I've done every year, let's kind of talk about setting the expectations for the event. Now, leading up to this, there has been a lot of leaks, a lot of paste bin, a lot of everywhere, and a lot of, honestly, what I honestly just think is pretty educated guessing, but not all of it really aligns because there's some very obvious hints when people are guessing at this kind of stuff that you can point out, and we are going to just walk through some of this stuff. But anyways, so on Sunday, Microsoft will be heading to E3, and I think this is going to be a big chance for them because, as we all know, Sony will not be there. So this is going to give them a pretty good run at the show of just kind of owning the convention, if you will. With Sony not there, Microsoft can just do whatever they want and not have to worry about what Sony is about to announce, although it would not surprise me if Sony still puts out a few press releases next week to try to steal some of the thunder. But when you look at what Microsoft has on the cards for the event, I think this is going to be a pretty significant show because we are starting to see Phil Spencer's full vision of how gaming in the Microsoft org should be, right? You got to remember that once you take over at the leadership position, things don't turn around in a week. It takes a couple years, and we are now heading into that prime category of Phil's vision materializing. So let's just start to dive in here. On the hardware side, I fully believe Microsoft is going to start talking about their next generation consoles, but for people who are expecting a detailed raw list of specifications, I think you're going to be a little disappointed. Expect them to talk things more at the high level, talk about things like, hey, it's going to be by AMD, it's going to have Navi graphics, it's going to have a solid state drive. I would not be surprised either to see them talk about how many multiples of performance improvement it is over the last generation, meaning I'm hearing that Anaconda is at least 2 times as powerful as the Xbox One X, and that the Lockhart, which is the lower end device, is somewhere around 4x multiple. At least that is some benchmark targeting. Expect Microsoft to use similar language. They might use different numbers or something around that, but I'm not expecting them to come out and talk T-flops. I'm not expecting them to come out and talk about clock rates and all that stuff, primarily because you got to remember, we are over a year away from these consoles being released, right? They're not coming out this fall, or they're coming out next fall. And if they explain everything, then there's not a lot there. I think they're going to give us enough details to really keep that momentum going around the next generation stuff, but they're not going to dive in for a number of really good reasons. One, I don't think their specs are fully locked down yet. AMD is just now starting to deliver the chips that Microsoft is going to use. I'd be surprised if they name a specific AMD chip. They'll probably talk about it again at a high level. And I think the performance is not fully known yet, because you got to remember, you got to look at yields coming from AMD, which is actually them just building the actual chips, right? Not every chip is created equal. There's binning of chips. If you're not familiar with that, look it up. You'll get a good briefer on that. So there's the binning of the chips. There's also driver support. There's optimization. And these companies, Sony and Microsoft included, have to do a lot of work on the software side to optimize their platforms to get all the performance out of it. And as we know, during a console's life cycle, further optimizations typically unleash more power. So Microsoft, I would not expect them to come out and say, hey, it's exactly 12 teraflops of power of all that stuff. Look more for high level stuff, along with some of the core features like PCIe 4.0 is also going to be included in that type of thing. Now, on the game side, Phil Spencer scooped me a little bit here and came out and said, hey, there's going to be 14 titles next week. And I think we're going to obviously see the knowns, like Gears of War 5, which, by the way, is codenamed Halifax. I think we're also going to see new DLC for State of Decay 2, Forza Horizon 4 Expansion 2. I believe we're going to see Halo Infinite trailer and gameplay. Now, granted, if they do the gameplay, it's actually going to be running on a PC with an Xbox controller, because they don't want the first visuals of this game, of the actual gameplay, to be shown off on the older hardware. It's going to be running on next gen like hardware, which can only be done on a PC at this time, because you got to remember, this stuff is not built. I'm also would be surprised if we actually saw the new hardware, by the way. I don't think they're going to actually show off the new devices, and I bet they only give us code names, potentially Anaconda and Lockhart, or they might rebrand them for the consumer, but I'm not expecting to get the final names either, because again, we're so far away. But look for Halo Infinite material coming out of the show. But here's the big thing. I think we're going to see 3 new IPs that we have not seen previously from those first party studios, right? Microsoft's been buying a bunch of studios. I wouldn't be surprised potentially if they even announced more studio acquisitions. Not confirmed on that information yet, so don't run with that. But I believe we'll see at least 3 new IPs that we have not seen previously, and I don't know what form that is coming in, but look for that information. But along with a strong first party showing, I've heard from multiple people that the third party presence is reminiscent of the Xbox 360 era. And so expect strong third party presence here, and that is a big win for Microsoft because a lot of those companies kind of waffled away from the Xbox brand after they had a really poor launch with the Xbox One. So it looks like they're starting to come back, and I think we're going to see pretty big stuff from that. Now, the darling of the show is, to no surprise, going to be Microsoft's xCloud service. We already know that they're going to talk about it. They've shown off some basically the same demo over and over and over again previously. We're going to see some new demos. I had heard at one point that they were hoping to actually do a demo from somebody's house, like outside of the Xbox Plaza out there in LA. So look for potentially that. I don't know if that made the final cut. I don't know where that process is, but that was one idea that was being floated around. Now, as I wrote last week, again, Microsoft kind of scooped me here because they pushed this stuff out. We're going to see the launch, I believe, of the PC Game Pass. Not a big surprise. But what I did scoop up last week is that, hey, Microsoft is working on a Garrison application. That is the codename Garrison. And today, this morning, Microsoft pushed out a new update to the Xbox PC app. And this basically 100% confirms what my scoop was last week that says, hey, pardon our dust. This app is being renamed to Xbox Console Companion to be a dedicated app for your Xbox console's features and settings. Notice it doesn't say games. Notice it doesn't say games. A new desktop experience is coming soon that requires an up-to-date version of Windows, so be sure to update the Windows 10 May 2019 update and stay tuned for the latest. That application, like I said, is codenamed Garrison. Walking Cat, who is good at sleuthing around inside of the Microsoft elements that are basically hitting on their servers, also found a curated list of applications in the Microsoft Store, and it was under the name of Garrison Collections. Again, reconfirming that information. So look for that Garrison application that I believe is going to be the missing component to the PC Game Pass experience, because you got to remember, it brings all that stuff together. And we have seen some other evidence of how this is going to work in, say, like the Microsoft Store. There was also some information sent along that showed that Xbox Game Pass Ultimate will include the PC Game Pass experience, which again is what I scooped last week. And then finally, according to French Registered Trademarks website, people have been asking, is there going to be a specific SKU of PC Game Pass? Now, I had heard at one point there was. I haven't heard anything recently, but there's registered trademarks, which I'll show you here, that actually show Microsoft did register the trademark for a PC Game Pass standalone SKU, if you will. So that looks like that is coming as well. So when you package all this stuff up, Microsoft is going to walk out on the stage. They're going to talk at a high level of next generation hardware. They are going to show xCloud demos. They're going to talk about PC Game Pass. They're going to have a bunch of new titles like Gears of War 5, I believe, the expansions, the Age of Empires. I think we might even see some Fable information tossed in there, although that one's still a little dicey, going to be talked about. They have a lot of stuff. And so I think Microsoft is setting the stage here for a pretty big event. I mean, just xCloud, Anaconda, Lockhart, PC Game Pass, whole bunch of new IP, strong third-party presence. It's going to be a hell of a show. And so I fully recommend that you tune in next week, because there's going to be more details, obviously, than I have here, and you're going to want to see the gameplay yourself. But this should be a pretty good primer about what to expect from Microsoft's E3 conference next week. I am looking forward to it. I'm also going to be on vacation, so if I post anything, it's going to be a little bit delayed. But hit that subscribe button, guys, and we'll catch you right back here next time.